What's up, guys? Today we have 3 boxes in here, which obviously means we have new parts. But what we all want to know is what's inside. So let's check it out. So today we have 4 of the 3-inch DDF series from LED COLIGHT. These are dual mode lights, which means I can toggle between white and yellow modes. And last but not least, in the last box, we actually have 2 complete wiring harnesses for the 2 sets of lights, since we have 4 lights in total. These also include the switch that allow me to toggle between the white and yellow modes whenever I want to. And you'll see why in just a minute, once I show you where I'm putting these lights, why I decided to go with 2 wiring harnesses rather than just 1 to power all 4 lights. So as you guys should know by now, I've been running these 7-inch LED lights from Auxbeam, and these are a 6-mode light, meaning they have white and amber, but they also toggle between combinations of those 2, as well as strobe versions of those. And although strobe can be fun sometimes, it actually serves 0 purpose for me. And I only ever toggle between white and amber modes because I like to use the white when I'm leading a trail, and it really does a great job of lighting up the trail. But then amber is really nice for keeping the light down a little bit, and it's less blinding for the people when I'm following. So I really wanted to make sure I had dual mode lights, because when I am leading or following, I like to toggle between the 2 options just on demand. I know how annoying it can be when someone is following behind you with their bright LEDs on and they're just glaring through your mirrors the whole time. And when it's dark outside, that's just a huge annoyance. So LED COLIGHT wanted to put their lights to the test a little bit. So they sent me out 4 of these lights to put on my Jeep, and I'm going to be replacing my 7-inch light bars with the 4 of these. And that's because I'm going from 7-inch to a 3-inch light. So the reason I opted for 2 sets of the 3-inch lights is simply because of aesthetics. Not necessarily based on the brightness levels. So as you can see right now, my 7-inch light bars fill out this gap in my bumper pretty well. But then going to a 3-inch, I wasn't a huge fan of how it might look only filling in this small area. So my thought process is I can double these up and I would fill in this gap and keep that nice filled look instead of only having 1 small light here. But as you may have already noticed, on my bumper I only have 1 light tab on here, and if I'm mounting 2 lights, I obviously need a second tab. But instead of welding on a completely separate light tab, what I'm actually going to do is fabricate just a small metal plate that I can essentially sandwich between the light and this light tab that will bridge the gap over to here, and will have a second hole in it that I can mount the other light. So this first light is going to be, in a way, the mount for the second light. You'll see a little bit more what I mean once I get some metal and I'll start working. So now that you guys have a little bit of the background, let's get to work. The difference in build quality between these 2 lights is just amazing. I'm pretty sure the 3-inch COLIGHT weighs more than the 7-inch Auxbeam, if that tells you anything. The engineering that went into the cooling fins on this LED COLIGHT, definitely a huge step up from what the Auxbeam lights did. And if that wasn't enough already, the lenses on the LED COLIGHT, this is real glass compared to this. Super thin plastic, and it's only sealed with a piece of rubber in there and 4 screws on the top and bottom that essentially just pinch that seal down. And over time, I guarantee these will end up getting some condensation built up in it, where these, we're definitely not going to have that issue. And then I also wanted to point out the main reason I went with a separate wiring harness is, as you can see here, the light from LED COLIGHT is made up of 3 separate wires. We have a ground and then 2 positive, which would be a 12-volt supply. And the reason for that is connecting the circuit between the black and the red will give you the white light, and then connecting black and yellow gives you the yellow light. Where with the aux beam lights, we only have 2 wires here, and although these were still 6-mode lights, these function by simply turning off and on the light over and over again to cycle between the modes, where this, I just flip the switch to what mode I want right away. But because of that, when I wired these lights up on the bumper, I actually wired it to the factory fog light harness. And if we come in here, this turns on simply by pulling this out and pushing it in. And as you can see clearly, if we were to wire up these COLIGHT lights to that factory harness, then we would only ever be able to wire it to either white or yellow, which isn't a big deal if that's all you're looking for, but I want to be able to have the option to toggle between each option whenever I want it. So with that being said, that's why I had to go with a separate wiring harness. So instead, I decided to just go ahead and cut those wires, and then I'll keep it tucked away underneath the hood. So if at any point in the future I decide to add any more lights, that wiring and switch is already there for me to use it. But now that we have these lights taken off, you can see here's the tab that we have on the bumper. And then I went and I found a piece of steel over here. I think this is going to work out perfect for what we need. So here's my plan. I'm going to measure out in the bumper and see how long I need it, but then I'm essentially going to take it and just cut off 2 chunks from here. And I'll obviously round off the corners, and then I'll go ahead and drill 2 holes in each one of these plates, and then I'll be able to clamp the one end onto the existing light tab that's there. So this will go between the light and the light tab and hold this rigidly, and then it will extend out, and we'll have the second hole here, and that's where I'll be able to mount the second light, and then obviously mirrored to the other side right here. So now we just need to go ahead and take a quick measurement, figure out where we want both of these lights to be placed, and then start making this plate and mounting up the new lights. Got the 2 identical plates made. Now all we have to do is drill 2 holes in each one, and then go ahead and round off all of these sharp edges. So decided to do a quick little test fit before I grind down all the edges. So essentially this is how it's going to look. But then you may have also noticed I have some wires hanging here. So while the metal was cooling down, I went ahead and essentially ran all the wires. And my plan is to run the wires through the grommet in the door right here. I typically run the wires through one of the grommets that are up here on the firewall. That's at least what I did in my old XJ. But this Jeep seems to be a bit different. I haven't really found anything that looks to be that accessible, like the grommet I used to have. So I thought the next easiest solution was to run up inside my fender and then into the door grommet, because it's super easily accessible through the side. And then I can easily run the switches right up to my dash how I want to. So that's the plan for right now. Now I'll actually go ahead and clean up the edges on the metal. Then I'll have to get some paint put on them, and we can actually get everything wired up. All right, guys, nothing is tight yet, but I actually have all 4 lights mounted up now. The paint is not really even close to dry. Basically just dry to the touch, but I wasn't gonna wait around for it to dry all night. So all 4 lights are mounted up. I do still have to figure out where all of these lights need to be aimed. So for now, they're all kind of just sitting there. But now you can at least get an idea of what it's gonna look like. And in my opinion, I think it looks so much better than the 7-inch light bars. They're a lot more blacked out, so I feel like it just has a lot more aggressive look to it. I'm super excited to turn them on. I haven't even connected them to the battery or anything, so I have no idea how bright these actually are, aside from the specs, which you already saw. One other quick update. I went ahead and I got both of these switches mounted up, and I think it looks pretty clean. So essentially all I have to do is connect the wires back up to the switches, and I can mount this piece right back up. And then I just have to wrap up the wiring under here. The power wires right here are not long enough to reach the battery all the way on that side. But luckily the ground is right here. So I'm just gonna ground it right on that and extend the power wires. I went ahead and did a little bit more work off camera, and I was able to get all of the wiring pretty much wrapped up, and I got the dash put back on with the wires tucked away inside. So here, I'll show you guys where we're at. So starting under the hood, I got all the wires ran underneath the washer fluid reservoir, and they go up along the firewall back there. And this includes the power wires that I extended, and they run right up to here. Just have to connect those still. You can see I have a little bit of extra under here, and I did that on purpose just to make sure nothing's too tight. And once I have everything hooked up, I have all these zip ties up here to hold it up along the firewall. I'm just going to slide the wires back over that way, and any extra that I might end up with can easily tuck underneath the washer fluid reservoir. Then coming down here to the lights, I was able to get all of the wires crimped up here. I have a little bit of slack here, so I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna end up tucking all these up, and we'll be able to hide any access under the hood. So let's go ahead and get all these wires wrapped up so we can get the lights pointed where we need to and get them all ready for testing tonight. Alright guys, we officially have the lights all wrapped up. We have all 4 lights mounted up. All the wiring is tidied up underneath the hood and tucked away. We have all the switches put in and the dash reinstalled. So the last thing we have left is just see what these things can do. One thing to bear in mind when we get around to doing this test is I have only eyeballed the direction of the lights so far. I have not had a chance to test them at night yet to see if everything's aimed perfectly. So for the first test, it might look like they're not aimed exactly where they should be, but for now, we're just going to give them a test, and then at that point, I will get everything adjusted properly. So let's wait for nightfall and finally see what these things can do.
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gonna feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing. Got a taste for blood and my tongue keeps bleeding from the words I spit. So sharp, so freezing, so cold. Behold, frostbite they feeling. I could tear you apart or I could go heal them. Don't believe in fate, don't believe in ceilings. I just need a taste and my mind starts peeling. I don't pace myself, I grind on kneeling. Got lust for change, I just love the feeling.
Alright guys, it's nighttime and we're finally out for the first test of the lights. So let's set up a camera and finally see what these things look like.
I'm a get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I don't lie at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time and I'll soon be winning. I live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I don't lie at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time and I'll soon be winning. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason.
Alright guys, first thought, these things are insanely bright. Look at how far they shine in the spread. These are said to be a spot beam, but they have a 70-degree spread, and with 4 lights it looks so perfect. The difference in quality from these compared to the old aux beam lights is night and day. You can clearly see the extra engineering that went into these. And just to put it into perspective, the DDF series are half the size, and the 2 sets together contain less than half the amount of LEDs, yet these blow the aux beam out of the water. I genuinely could not be happier with the quality of these lights from LED COLIGHT. If you guys have stuck around this long and want to snag a set of the DDF series for yourself, click the link in the description and use my code ENGINEERINGOVERLAND for 10% off your order.
Keeps bleeding from the words I spit. So sharp, so freezing, so cold. Behold, frostbite they feeling. I could tear you apart or I could go heal them. Don't believe in fate, don't believe in ceilings. I just need a taste and my mind starts peeling. I don't pace myself, I grind on kneeling. Got lust for change, I just love the feeling. I ain't gonna get